Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lonely Wrist. Today, sitting in front of us, we have the CEO of Maurice Lacroix, Stéphane. What's up, brother?
Hi everybody, doing great. Preparing some end of year sales, so quite
Yeah.
busy.
Do you guys have a big holiday planned? I'm assuming.
I mean, there's a lot happening. We're international, so we cater to 81 markets. So you have all the Diwali's coming up, and then you have, of course, the whole Christmas festive season. Then, of course, you then go to Chinese New Year, Russian New Year, Chinese New Year. So there's a lot of festive and holidays coming up.
Yeah, I literally was just in Istanbul like last week, and it seems like every corner has a Maurice Lacroix dealer,
I
which
mean,
is
Turkey
awesome.
is massive. Yeah, Turkey is massive. We are really well represented in Turkey, and it's been doing very well. Actually, Turkey is one of our top five markets.
It
Wow.
seems so because here in Vegas, which is weird because there's only one dealer in Vegas and they have a very limited selection. And Justin's in Raleigh, and he said there's one dealer there too. Um, but it was really hard to see your product until your rep came, and we spent hours just going over the collection. And needless to say, I was super impressed. It's a shame how underrepresented you are, uh, which is the reason why you're sitting in front of me. Hopefully, so we
Thanks,
can,
thanks for the invitation.
so we can
Yeah,
let everybody know how awesome you are.
yeah. I mean, we've been in the U.S. since the '90s, but it's been ups and downs. We did some what happened a lot in the last 20, 30 years. We did some strategy changes, which repositioned. So at one point of time, we were retailing watches between 500 and $1,000. Then there's one period we were retailing watches between 5 and 10. And basically, what we're doing now is back to kind of where we were successful, the origins. We are very comfortable in a price range between $1,000 to $3,000. So that's where we're home.
Yeah, I mean, it. You guys are super young. 1975, I believe. Um, how did the brand kind of get its niche carved out? And in 1970s, everybody was making watch brands like it was cool, right? So it's a very saturated time to start a watch brand. Let's talk about the early days of the brand and how you guys were able to carve such a unique identity in a crowded segment already.
Yeah, I think the 1975 or the 70s it was even more challenging because you had a lot of watches and watch brands. I think there were about 1,600 Swiss watch brands. Today there's only 650 Swiss made. But in the 70s, what also was what we call the quartz crisis, where the quartz started to sell well, and then the interest for mechanical automatic watches really went down. So this is also something very much like I mean, we like challenges. And how did we make it? The main idea was that period of time, if you wanted some very nice mechanical complications, as we call it, or very high-end watchmaking, you had to really put a big lump of money on the table to get that.
Hmm.
And what we have been doing since the start, which is at the center of the brand idea, is bringing very high-end watchmaking at accessible prices. So in that period, we were known for the masterpiece. We have some beautiful masterpiece. We did retrogrades, we did day and night indication, also very simple big dates, and what you also call small seconds. So it's all very fine watchmaking details, but we were bringing this at very accessible prices around $2,500 at that time, and this still continued. And today, if you pick up one of our best-selling collection, Icon, people, so the retail price is about $2,500 for a mechanical watch, but it's a lot of quality. You got of course sapphire crystal, open case back, You have a screwed crown. It's water resistant to 200 meters, but you also have a easy strap exchange system. So you can, you can go from a steel strap to a leather strap or a rubber strap very easy. So there's a lot of advanced benefits and it's a lot of quality. And usually when people look at our products, when they start to know us, they're always impressed with the quality, get for the price you're paying.
I would say I definitely felt that. Obviously I've held a lot of high-end watches, $500,000 to $1 million watches because I'm in Vegas. I've got that luxury to do that. But within a split second, it's easy to tell that you guys have a really high quality product. And yeah, so yeah, I just noticed that so quickly. So
I'm curious, Stéphane, what inspired the name behind Maurice Lacroix? And is there a person or a story behind it that helps, influence the brand?
Yeah, I mean, so the family that owned Maurice Lacroix, or because Maurice Lacroix was in a family-owned company in the 70s, it belonged to a big trading group, and the main activity of these people was basically silk trading and brush trading, industrial brushes, right?
Oh.
And this company has been existing since 1812 or so, 1850, something like that. And when Maurice Lacroix came to life, well, first, this company was also a distributor of Swiss watch brands, very prestigious Swiss watch brands, which are amongst the top 10 watch brands today. And, so the whole silk trading and brush trading was happening from Asia to Europe. And being this Swiss company at the beginning, people were telling them, you're Swiss, can you bring me this watch or that watch brand? And basically they opened an agency for those brands. So they were also distributing. So they were going to get the silk and the brushes and then distributing the watches to Asia. And with the time, they were so successful at that, they opened private label workshops.
Wow.
So basically, these same customers started saying, I like that watch, but I would like to have something similar, 100 pieces of that with my name of my company or whatever. So that was kind of the 50s and 60s. The Swiss watch industry was very strong on private labeling.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1962, they basically purchased a private labeling workshop, which I'm sitting here today. It's in Seigneur-Léger in Switzerland.
That's cool.
And so that was 1962, and then the demand was so high. So in the 70s, they said, "Listen, I mean, we have so much demand, we should do our own brand, right?" And there was they had a board of directors, and what was the thing is from the board of directors they say, "Okay, we need name very French because in the 70s." France was the country in the world. It was setting the trends for fashion. It was setting the trends for luxury. So everything that was French in the 70s was the thing, right? And a bit like New York in the 90s. Yeah. So that's why they said, okay. And there was Maurice Lacroix sitting on the board of Maurice Lacroix, because 1975. It's not that you were doing 20 generations of watchmakers. And they said, yes, let's take his name, right? And that's how it started.
Ever since I had the chance to meet with your rep out here, it seems that your brand has been haunting me. Because me and Justin was in Vegas not that long ago, but occasionally I'll go to this it's like a pawn shop. And it's a very special pawn shop because they're owned by a national chain of pawn shops. And let's just say somebody pawns a watch in like Iowa or like Minnesota. There's not a huge luxury market there. So what they'll do is they'll ship the watches to Vegas where there's buyers for these high-end watches. And I went in there and your mysterious seconds is sitting there, and I was like, this is a crazy watch. still might be there because they're more in the jewelry side than they are in the watches side. But then I reached out to Andre and I was like, "Hey, dude, like, look at what I have in my hand," and he was like, "How much is it?" And I still need to get back to him about how much is it because it's probably really cheap. Because they let stuff go like super quick. But I mean, it's crazy. And then when I went to Turkey, I just saw you guys on every corner.
Yeah.
And almost everybody in the shops that sold your watches was wearing your watches. And it was just really cool because, here, at least like I said, you guys are really underrepresented, so you have a huge challenge ahead, especially in the North American market, because you have such a great product and people just don't have the opportunity to get hands-on with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, we have to do it step by step, US is one of our focus markets for the future. What we also had to do, because it's been a lot of structural changes, and so first we need to get the basics right. For next year, we're going to have a strong team in the market, and then at the end, it's about building the awareness. I mean, we already are present in about 60 to 80 shops. But I agree with you. In the US is so big, so you have to make choices where to grow first, and also online is quite important. I mean, basically today we do 99% of our investments in terms of visibility is online, so digital, social media, and we see also we have an e-commerce. Since of course it's running since 2-3 years, but last year we took the opportunity to put on Salesforce to have better efficiency in terms of targeting, also in terms of the whole sale process, because that's quite key. It's very smooth, and especially for the US, because you guys are so mature in terms of watch market and in terms of shopping or purchase experience online, so it really has to be seamless. And so these are kind of the elements we're putting into place to make it grow. And of course, I mean, thing number one is to get us known, because once you know us and you start getting into our products, people are really amazed what the quality we have, the variety, the programs we have. So it's quite, we have a lot to offer. We also do manufacture, so we have our own engines in some watches, like you talked about Mysterious Second.
Yeah,
we have Mysterious Second, we have Mercury, we have Gravity, we have a square wheel, and then we also have skeletons, which are our own engine, if you want, our own movement, which we assemble here in this factory. So it's very interesting program we have there, but that's the high end. It's not the bulk of our sales, but it's also things we do to show the people, how good we are in terms of craftsmanship. What can we do? And the prices are quite good on these kind of manufacture or in-house developments. We're between 5,000 and 10,000 Swiss francs. So again, this idea of being very accessible, having great watchmaking, but at accessible prices is very important.
Based upon like some of the homework that we did, you joined the company in like the mid 2000s. Is that accurate?
2008.
Okay.
January 2008.
And in the later, Justin said 2008, but I didn't want to like be entirely wrong. I'm sure since you've been there since 2008, I mean, you've seen the company change a lot, right? During your time at Maurice Lacroix, what have you seen change? And how do you feel like the brand's direction has shifted?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing, so it's now 16 years. We had the 2009 crisis, we had the 2014 crisis, and we had COVID. So you can imagine these are all challenges, which you always say, challenges, you can see it two ways. You can see it in a negative way. I like to see it as opportunities. So when I joined the company, it was more a kind of a product brand, but not a brand. So it was about, we had like so many different lines, not very consistent message. In the US, you had a different collection than what you have in Europe, than what you had in Asia. There was kind of no red line or kind of global brand image. So 2008 with the and also in 2007, 6 and 7 we I don't know if you know about this, but ETA, which were delivering all of the watch movement, sort of threatened they will not deliver the industry anymore. So we were at the point where like, okay, what do we do? Do we just stop with the brand, or do we try to do it ourselves? We did ourselves, but the issue with doing yourself is then it's small volumes, which means, you know, if you want to still offer products, they were like 5-10 times what you were offering before. So there came also the crisis in 2009, and what we had to do, we had to reposition the brand. So that was an opportunity to me, where the CEO came and said, guys, we have to rethink this. So this is when we started building the brand, you know, and building kind of, what is this brand about? You know, who do we want to focus to? What's our space in this whole watch industry? What are the price points we need to hit? And that sort of kind of the 2010 to 2015 period. What we were still missing that period is we didn't have a hero product. So we were trying a lot of stuff. So, you know, that's when we launched the Pantos S. That's when we did the partnership with Barcelona. We did we started a lot of digital activations, digital campaigns. So that was quite new. You know, being on Facebook in those years was like, oh my God, you're going to have a customer. He's going to ask you a question. But we thought, okay, awesome. You know, let's start the communication. There's something good to it. You know, if people can talk with us, then maybe, you know, we can talk to them more about the brand. So that was quite interesting. And then in what we did in those years, we, so in 2014, I became, they gave me the brand lead. And then we were talking a lot to retailers, talking a lot to distributors, and they're all telling us, bring back the old Calypso. But if you look at Calypso, that was a watch from the 90s, very successful. So we were selling hundreds of thousands of that watch in the 90s. But if you look at the design in 2014, there was like, can't bring this. It's like too outdated. But the design head of design was quite smart, and we said, listen, if there's so many feedbacks about this watch, there must be something. And if we sold so many of those watches, there must be something true, right? So we did a design study. We did market research, because we only had one shot. So we wanted really, you know, to be sure it works. And in doing market research, in the watch industry, I don't know how familiar you are with the watch industry, but it's not a common thing. So it took us 2 years to redesign this Calypso, which became the icon. And what was interesting with the market research, suddenly, because before, like all the watch brands, you're like, okay, it's $2,000-$3,000, so it has a certain price point. So who has the money? Oh, you're 55 and plus, you have a career, you're a business owner, whatever. But the thinking was, we're talking to the older generations. And then suddenly through market research, they're like, you know that quartz chronograph icon? Well, if you're 20 years old, you are interested, and you have already signified your wish to purchase it. So we were like, okay, that's interesting. And so digging more on market research, debriefing everything, we saw that, there was really a market out there, 25 plus. And then we sort of, who are these people? And it's like, oh, millennials. Never heard about. So getting into the topic of millennials, this then pushed us. Then we changed the whole communication. We repositioned basically the whole communication, and then also at the end we repositioned the whole brand.
And I was going to say the icon, I think, has helped push that as well, because a lot of like the millennials, kind of the younger generation, are looking at that more like modernized design, compared to some of the other pieces. And I know that's been one of y'all's probably biggest sellers, I would say, is the icon.
It is. It's more than 70% of the sales today. So in 7 years, 6 years, that's great. It's basically the icon which kind of put us back on the chart.
That's awesome. Good business decision.
What was the shift from like the icon to like the icon tide? how did that transition? Were you just saying, hey, look, we want to offer something a little bit more like price approachable, or, like, because the Tide is a very cool watch too, like,
yeah. So
it's
Tide, how did Tide come about? I mean, so we were 216 millennials, right? Obviously, these millennials in 2021, they were then 30. So we knew there's another generation out there. So getting into the Gen Z topic, trying to understand what these guys want, also in terms of purchase potential or kind of sales potential, it is a big market. But of course, as always from the watch industry, ignored because not these kind of older people and young people don't buy expensive watches and so on. But we think it's different. And if you go into that, and what was happening is, so sustainability is big on their agenda. So they're highly connected. They are also very demanding. They have strong opinions about what they purchase, and also sustainability is a question mark they have. Plus, at the same time, it was interesting. We were getting more and more requests from customers about sustainability. People were asking kind of, what's your packaging? How much plastic do you send when you send out watches? What are you doing with your whole logistic and distribution costs? Are you looking specifically at sustainability topics? I got questions like, do you have vegan watches?
Everybody's worried about the footprint.
yeah.
But it's also a fair point because of the oils. What oils are you using? Is it synthetic oils? Straps, of course. Calf or imitation or substitute. So I mean, all these questions, and I mean, the thing is, sustainability being high on the agenda of the Gen Z, we started looking into, is it possible to do something? So it was not about doing something completely sustainable, but doing something more sustainable. And this is how we got into this whole Tide topic, because plastic is a big problem. And then thinking of, okay, you can recycle it and make a cool watch. And the advantage of it is you can give it any color you want. So that, it kind of becomes very funky because you can start to do huge variations. So that's how the Tide came about.
That's pretty cool. I was going to ask you, how does Maurice Lacroix ensure the quality of its timepieces, and what sets its manufacturing process apart from other, watch brands?
So I mean, what's different versus most of the watch brands, but not the top ones, is, I mean, we have a whole development in-house. So I have technical developers. I have people working on designs. Then I have the whole development process internalized, meaning, working from a design, technical drawing, on the prototyping, then of course pre-series, pre-production, and then of course you go into your production. So this is quite particular because if you master the development of movements, and then we have all our assembly lines here, and also what you do is you have quality control incoming, which you tend to be more strict, that you can be very flawless in terms of your production, very streamlined. And then of course at the end of your production line, again, you got quality controls. And basically what I was saying is, we're able of doing the high-end watches, and this high-end watches, so the most expensive watches are designed by the same teams, developed by the same teams, but also checked by the same teams and produced by the same teams, or assembled by the same teams than the guys who will do the low lines. So meaning the expertise, the competence we have on the high end, we give the same attention on the lower end.
So something I noticed too that, like, I guess you don't really talk about anymore, or at least people don't give you credit for, but you guys were one of the first brands to really kind of push this idea of alternative materials. Mm-hmm. Like, and when I say, like, when I look back in like Power Light, right? Like in 2013, like you guys were working on Power Light, and people were like, why are you spending money developing materials? Like, nobody cares, And then now you see every single watch brand out there has some type of proprietary materials. I mean, that's credit that you guys deserve that you don't, you don't take the throne there,
Yeah, I mean, we're being very Swiss, very understated, very discreet. But I
Very
mean, this
demure.
year, yeah, but this year we worked a lot on materials. I don't know if you follow a bit our launches. So we did a few very nice bronze executions beginning of the year on the Pontos S and on the Icon. We launched a few weeks ago the titanium, and of course one material which is quite difficult to master, but we're about to launch is the ceramic. So
Oh.
Icon ceramic. So it's and ceramic, it's in terms of the quality. So there's a black one, a white one, and the black is matte, and the white one is really white. So it was so white that we have the anti-reflecting coating on the dial, because we want the dial to match the pureness of the ceramic bands and case. So the white has to be really pure. And when we did this at the end of the process, we saw that the anti-reflective coating was giving it a yellowish brownish tint. So we even worked on the anti-reflective coating to have something really pure white. So that's going to be quite interesting. And the black one matte is really cool. And well, ceramic is very breakable, so we had to reconceive the whole watch in terms of the strap, the bracelet, because in a normal steel watch, a steel strap, you have pins, but if you put pins in a ceramic brace, it just snaps, it just shatters. And also the design of our Icon, you have a kind of 6 grips or 6 claws on the bezel, and these are screwed from beneath. Well, ceramic, you cannot screw something from in beneath, it just shatters too. So we had to, it's a monoblock bezel, and also the strap is completely new design, but we wanted to keep you have to keep the Icon proportions or the design. So it's been actually 2.5, 3 years development to get that. And because it's Maurice Lacroix, it's one of the most accessible ceramic proposals in the market.
Ceramic is incredibly challenging to work with, and I have a few ceramic watches, and of course, everybody's like, "Oh, well, the watch will just shatter." Da, 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 if you drop it, I haven't had that happen to me, thank gosh. But I have seen some of the stuff that you do, which with PVD, and I guess for me personally, I have a bias against PVD because in the I had one of the early Bell and Ross watches that was PVD, and it's like you look at it and it's scratched and it goes right to the steel, and you're like, okay, well, or if you look at some of the mid 70s PVDs with like the
Gold.
Porsche, the Porsche design chronographs and all that, and I mean they just look like shit, in modern in a modern collection, but I'll be excited to see. And I guess obviously we talked to a lot of watch brands, and we know you guys are super far out. Like you're looking at your next 5-10 years. Do you guys, and you don't have to give us all the details, but I'm sure you have something new that you're getting ready to drop. That maybe might take the Icon away from the mainstay. A new collection. If you could give us a taste.
So next year is the 50th anniversary of Maurice Lacroix. So I mean, there's different way to look at it. I mean, some brands you would, it's a tendency to celebrate 50 years and you redo a best of your last 50 years. But we are a younger brand, so we've got 50 years of experience, but it's also for us to kick off the next 50 years. So it will be a very interesting year to follow Maurice Lacroix. There will be at the beginning of the year an opportunity. We're bringing back what we're missing today is even a more accessible watch, mechanical, kind of everyday watch, but Maurice Lacroix quality will be around $1,300. So that's one part of it. Another area we haven't been very strong, but we have strong, big opportunities is ladies.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies, there will be a very beautiful launch next year. We're actually, what's interesting is we're relaunching something, a shape we had in the collection in the year 1990, 2000. And we worked a lot on developing, redesigning this shape internally. But interesting enough, it's very close to things we had 30 years ago. But it's not a square cube, it is.
Okay. All right. Good.
Glad to hear that you guys are focusing on like ladies' watches too, because I feel like that's kind of the thing is becoming of the day that like ladies' watches are becoming more prevalent. It's good to see ladies kind of getting into the market more too. So that'll be exciting to
We
see.
we've talked to some like females in the industry, and like the concept of making a female watch is like shrinking it down and throwing diamonds on it, or throwing
Yeah.
mother of pearl, and they're like, come on, like this is bullshit, you know. So
yeah,
more
we
power
have
to you.
we have one collection with this ladies only currently. It's Fiaba, and it's exactly what you say. I mean, designing a men's watch, making it, shrinking it, it's not a beautiful ladies design. And the same thing around, being. I mean, we see it every day. Being good at designing men's watches does not mean you're good at designing ladies' watches. It's a huge challenge, and and you look at some brands who are very good with ladies' watches. I mean, basically, you're good at either one or the other, but there's very little brands who do both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But getting back to the 50th anniversary, and then of course, I mean, Icon Icon has just been launched, if you want, because it's been 6 years, 7 years now. So our focus still remains Icon, and next year we just want to bring Icon to a next level. So there will be some, you know, some reinforcement of the current what we do, but we'll also think about how can we bring it also in new areas, new territories, without alienating where we're good at, which is the kind of the classical icon today, and this has to continue.
Now, we know that you guys have influencers, ambassadors, people like that that can help drive these products. How important are these partnerships for Maurice Lacroix, and what qualities do you look for in these ambassadors and influencers?
I mean, the whole thing about ambassador influencers, first thing is the world has changed. And the point number one is about authenticity. So, exactly on these people, it brings us nothing if we pay somebody millions for a few posts. Of course, it's out there, but people will know, oh, especially the younger generation, they know, okay, it's paid. So, is it really relevant? So point number one, it's about really having authentic relationships. So the friends of brand we have are really people who are interested in what we do. They don't do it for the money, but what we try to do is we try to create projects. We like to develop things together. And so, partnerships we've done in the past or things we're bringing on next year, there's two, three interesting collaborations. And it's all fun stuff. And it's also fun stuff in this. We like to be perceived as an urban brand because of our, of these younger generations, potentially, their playground is the city, is the urban environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to speak to them, to be relevant to them, you want to do things in the urban environment. This is why we're big into basketball 3x3. This is why we've done things in the past like Formula E, because it happens in the city. With this kind of modern volleyball, which was always stadiums that were building up in cities. So it's always the city, the urban environment.
Right.
We have an ambassador. She's a skateboarding longboard skateboarder. We have people who do urban dancing. They're kind of street dance, hip hop. For Tide, we did a Red Bull Dancer Style, which is kind of a hip hop street style contest. So you see, that's really the urban environment is where we try to play, and that's where we have our customer base. And then you bring in the watch, the kind of the Swiss watch message.
I also noticed that you guys used to have more. Maybe should I say his name? I think you know where I'm going with this. But you guys used to have more sports focused influencers, specifically tennis stars,
Yes.
that are no longer with you. So I guess it seems like the mentality has just shifted, right? Because you were going after, seemingly a different audience then than you are now.
Yes.
Is that where the direction change happened in your ambassador program or friends of the brand?
Absolutely. Because going with superstars, everybody know you pay them millions, and then how authentic is it them pushing or being portrayed or doing something on social media with your brand? It's so you go with that brand because just this person has been paid millions to work with it, or are you going to work with someone or appreciate a brand where somebody who stands behind it really likes what we do, and there's a personal reason why this person works with you. So we definitely will not work and not working with big names. And it's also, it's not the idea of the brand. The idea of the brand is to do exactly what we did in 2004, is to take people in the becoming and assist them. So, the whole campaign claim is about your time is now. And we always say, success is a journey, not a destination. So it's all these ideas which are very strong here. And the brand is younger. It's about your beginnings. It's about your first successes. If you have somebody of the quality of you mentioned before, you're at the end of your career. You've done it. You're the best. You're number one, right?
That makes sense. Out of all the years I've been in the watch industry and all the brands we've worked with, I have never heard somebody say that authenticity is important.
But it is the number one important point if you're social media today.
And something that, like, our first podcast guest was Jose Perestroika. Do you know who Jose is?
No.
His alias is Periscope.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
But he's an investigative journalist, and he kind of exposes the big brands and all of the bullshit that they put out and skew, and a lot of these brands are really hiding a lot of important information from their customers, and we can use every single watchmaker ever who's ever lied about using an in-house caliber or
yes.
or whatever, right? But it's refreshing to hear you say that, because I've never heard anybody say that. And that's what I think when we started Lonely Wrist, like the whole concept and project was to first of all give everybody like an equal playing field, right? Where like we could promote the big boys, right? All the Richemonts, all the Swatch Group product, all the LVMH brands, but we're giving everybody the equal playing field to come on our platform, right? Because we feel like every watch brand caters to a unique market, like a unique customer segment. So creating an equal playing field, and then transparency, being honest, being genuine. I used to sell watches, and I can't tell you how many times I told people to not buy a watch because it was a piece of shit. And I'm glad to hear you say that, to be honest. But I'm sure as you transition into targeting a younger crowd, obviously Swiss watchmaking kind of like hangs its laurels on tradition, right? Like being traditional. So how do you guys balance like being a traditional watch brand versus like targeting a new generation of people who wears these all the time?
Yeah, but that's and the answer is with the Gen Zs. They're the best example, and they really give you the answer. The thing is with Gen Zs, they're overconnected. They learned, get this right. After 2 years, you throw it away, and there's different elements because these people are overconnected, so they need to get a grip on something, right? And what is interesting with Swiss watchmaking, it's a traditional Swiss heritage. just like the work of leather for the handbag industry. Yeah. Or you have fashion with the big fashion brands, high-end fashion, haute couture. All these luxury categories have something always rooted in very traditional things. What they also learn about is it's not only about the traditional part, but it's about the quality part. It goes together, right? And look at what's happening at the moment, the whole vintage market, not only for watches, but look at what's happening with Hermes bags, Chanel bags, 30, 40-year-old bags, which are sold more expensive, the price of new. And what these younger generations have learned is, first of all, you don't throw it away after 2 years. You pay a bit more money, but over the years, if you look at the usage, then you can also can take care of it, especially watches. You got a problem, you got a battery, you can repair it. You have a problem with the movement, you can fix it, and you can use a watch 30, 40, 50, 60 years. So on one side, you have something to hold on. You learn that it's more expensive, but quality on the long run, you have more out of it. And then there's of course the whole sustainability thing, which is about not wasting, not throwing things away, but repairing it, taking care of it. And then there's also the cultural heritage part, which is relevant. I mean, look the number of projects of artists who are reinterpreting traditional ways of paint, of crafts, in different fields. Also look at the high-end fashion. Every year, of course, they have to come and bring four or five collections, but a lot of the inspiration, then you got the 40s, then you got the 50s, then you got 60s. I mean, it's always getting back because you need to have something to hold on. And all these things are quite interesting with this new generation. And we were all thinking, okay, smartwatch is coming out, it's dead. But at the end, the watch, what is the watch? It's not the extension of your iPhone on your wrist. The Swiss watch tells a lot about who you are. It's like a handbag. It's like a piece of fashion that you recycled in a vintage store. And it tells a lot about you. It's a lot about taste, your distinguishedness, and also character, attitude. Are you going to take you're going to buy a black BVD or black ceramic watch, and you're going to be dressed all in black, or you like the colory stuff, or are you more kind of the elegant type, or are you more on the discreet side, or are you on the showy side? So it's a very intimate and personal communication you have versus your peers, and in this society where things is so fast, so connected, where you're losing your values. I mean, watchmaking has some solutions or has some things you can take out of it.
Yeah, I definitely think that there will always be, newer technologies that come out that will always try and take somehow from the watch industry and try and flip things differently, different trends, if you will. So while we're on that subject, what trends do you see emerging in the luxury watch industry, and how do you guys plan to stay ahead of those trends?
I mean, on the what we see a lot is about kind of the no gender, or kind of men's watches becoming smaller, ladies' watches becoming bigger, and at the end, what we see is women sharing watches of their men's, and vice versa. So that's an interesting one. Then you have a lot on development on and more colors. So I think people need more time for expression. And one which is huge, but it's not only watchmaking, it's in all over, in all goods categories, it's collaborations. I mean, I've never seen so many collaborations, not only in watches, but in apparel, in fashion,
Yeah.
you name it. There's not one category, one industry that doesn't do collaborations today.
It's a lot about like who you know.
Yeah,
Find that
well, with
out.
who you work, right? But it's
Yep.
also, I mean, there's some good examples and there's some less good examples. But I think it's also nice to stretch the brands and then to go, in reaching out to new communities, and it's been about bringing your expanding your brand footprint. There's actually a lot you can do, and the good thing about collaborations, the more you do, the more you learn, because we've been doing stuff with designers like 10 years ago, and at the beginning was like, okay, what are we going to do with that designer or that architect or that artist? But at the end, this person has another vision, and what we've done out of the collaborations, we ended up finding always very interesting ideas, which then found their way again in the collection, one way or the other, years after.
You've talked a lot about, like, targeting a younger demographic, Gen Z, millennials. I mean, I didn't see anything like this, and but I'm assuming you guys are working on programs or initiatives, things like that, that kind of contribute to the community and support, like, ethical practices and watchmaking. Maybe not, maybe so. If yes, can you tell us about some of those things?
Yeah, I mean, the best example was Tide, where every 20% of the production costs were going to this foundation in northern Thailand, where they get the plastic bottles out of the ocean. So it served two ways. One is that there's so much plastic waste in those regions, there's less fish, meaning local communities, with the fishermen, they were sending more their kids out to get fish and not getting education. So what we were doing is we were paying them the price. We would pay them for fish. We were paying them in kilos of bottles, plastic bottles recycled, which means, they go out, whatever they do, less fish, more fish, or plastic bottles, they would get a fixed income, and which allowed them to send their kids to school. And then we were also paying warehouses, infrastructures, because there's parts of the world where especially northern Thailand, it's not the levels of quality and infrastructure you have in modern civilizations as we use it in the US or in Europe. So it's nice also to be supportive, develop that, and at the end you get the plastic you recover finds its way into a watch, right? That's one of them. But I always say, sustainability or these initiatives, it's not about the reports and the greenwashing, it's about doing them. And the question is always, it's not what do you do, but when do you start, right? And once you start, there's no way back. And anyway, in terms of sustainability, it becomes a standard. Look at the generations coming. They have high expectations, very demanding, and it's important that you deliver on that with that agenda. And I've seen some customers saying, oh, how is this watch packaged? Oh, does it come with that? Okay, I'm not having that watch because this company shows me they don't understand what my values are, and I have other expectations. So, okay, the watch is fine, but the packaging, it's a no-go. So I don't support this cause.
Something that I've heard you talk about, which again is very refreshing, is customer feedback. Like you said, hey, look, here's what our customer wants. Here's what we've heard. It sounds like, because you guys are, I'm going to use air quotes here, but a smaller watch brand, that you guys actually can listen to your customers. Like if you look at some of the big boys out there, like they're not even going to listen to me or Justin or any of our listeners or anybody. They don't give a shit about any of us. They're like, hey, and you can look at the most recent Cubitist release where, the CEO came out and said, well, you're just a hater. Like, we don't care what you think, and you're never going to own a Patek, So the fact that you're actually listening to your customers is something that is also very unique in the watch industry. So it seems like that's very important to you. And how do you, I'm sure there's listeners out there that have your watches, that have your products in their home and on their wrist. How do you engage your customers, and how do you communicate with them?
I mean, first thing important is we always say we listen to customers. It's not a marketing claim. I mean, you can go on the website now. There's my email address, and everybody who writes me an email, I respond to them. And our point of view is, a customer giving you a feedback. It's not a critic, because every feedback you get is half a solution. It's half a proposal. And the success on Icon has been based on market research, and most of the things we do is based on feedback, because our customer know better than we do what they want. Our distributors, our retailers are facing everyday customers with requests, and the best way to do watches and to develop watches is to develop watches you sell. And a watch that sell is a watch that it has been decided, where there has been a decision behind from a customer. He says, yes, I want this brand because I like the design, I like the brand spirit, whatever. So ignoring your customer feedback is sort of ignoring the sellability of your product.
I know earlier we were kind of on the subject of working with ceramic and how difficult it can be. I'm curious, kind of reword this in a way, but can you share one of the most challenging projects that your team has worked on in recent times, and what made it so groundbreaking for the brand?
I mean, ceramic is definitely, because I mean it took us more than 3 years, and now we're delivering the first batches, but we also plan big batches. We have high quality controls, so our suppliers are sweating at the moment because they can only deliver half of the quantities, but we've got big orders there. Titanium was also a challenge. So all the materials, as long as you get out of the steel and the gold,
Mm-hmm.
it's all materials which, okay, it's sexy. They've got better characteristics. I mean,
I love
interesting
titanium.
characteristics. Yeah, but then again, it's very complicated, because the titanium watch we have, for example, on the three hands, so we have an ultraviolet color, and the other one is a tone-on-tone gray, same color as the titanium. We have been smart enough to say we want the strap to be polished and brushed. Yeah, that was really a good idea.
Yeah, give it the two-tone. It gives it that wrist rollability.
It looks better.
Yeah.
It looks more qualitative, but it's been also a very big challenge. To polish titanium, that is quite challenging.
I'm a huge fan of forged carbon. Like I start to see everybody doing carbon, like forged carbon watches. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. Like this is what I'm into. And I know, because everybody just says how hard it is to work with, because it's fragile, but you have to form it right before it becomes strong, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah. So if you're into forged carbon, I mean, we did the collection in 2014 on the Pontos S Regatta. That was forged carbon. And for the Only Watch project, we presented the Gravity on forged carbon. We still have a few cases, so if you want to have your customized and unique watch, you can choose the color of the dial, and we still have some cases left.
I have, ever since I got a chance to get hands-on with the Pontus, I've been waking up in the middle of my night dreaming about them, because it's a sick watch. It's just so good. It's just so good. And yeah, so I'm gonna have to get in touch with you about getting some of the getting one of those. Then.
You got my email, stephanewaser@mauricelacroix.com. Very easy.
I was laughing because whenever you said, "Oh, my email's on the website," I was like, "Well, that would have made our life a lot easier," because we went through the more formal channels to reach you. Going through your rep and going through your leadership team, and I was like, "Shit, that would have saved us a lot of time." I'm really curious. Since you are a leader in the watch industry, you're a CEO. What have you learned in a leadership role at a watch brand? And what are some of the valuable lessons that you've learned about leadership management and, while you've been at Maurice Lacroix?
I mean, the most important thing is about the team. You gotta get your team engaged. It's not about my decisions or my choices. I mean, we all are people with various tastes, but I think it's really important to support the team, to give the team the chance to express themselves. And my job is more about, it's more about kind of being a coach or, assisting them. I'm there just to check that we're respecting and we're going in the direction of the Northern Star we've set ourselves, and check that the strategies are right. But the big leverage, I mean, we're not we're 60 people here in the factory. So and globally the brand is about 120 people with 9 subsidiaries. But it's about so you're not a big you're not a huge team. So you need to have the I will always say the power of the multiples. Together you achieve more team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's big. That's what you need, because you don't, in terms of resources. I mean, it's easier when you got millions of budget and you can engage all the people and smart people. We have to take calls on, do we engage this guy and we get that? We engage that guy and we get that. It's like we only have one position here, right? So.
And how did you transition from just being with the brand to kind of running the brand? Because that I never got that story from you, and I'm very curious.
Yeah, I joined as marketing director in 2008, and I mean, already when I joined, I mean, I saw the brand. I was like, whoa, it has a lot of potential, but there's a lot of work. There was a lot of work about kind of this clarity in the collections, clear brand positioning, also processes. What also a lot of people forget or never, they forget that behind a lot of success, brand success, it's not only about the marketing and the product, it's also what happens on the backstage, and especially in production processes. So what we've been able to do in a few years with less people to produce faster. And meaning producing faster, your retailer is happy because when he has a customer and he doesn't have the watch in stock, the chances he gets delivered quite fast and he can repurchase is with Maurice Lacroix very high. It was not like that when I joined. When I joined, if you wanted to reorder or repurchase a watch which was not in stock, sometimes it would take you a year and a half. Today, it's just a few days.
Wow.
So it's it's a different world. So this means also better confidence from your retailers, from distribution partners, because they know they have to carry less stock, because anytime they can call and somebody in the back has it on stock and it's delivered quite fast.
Yeah, I mean that times have changed. And I'll find our final question, reaching the top of the hour here. I'm sure in your mind as a competent CEO, you have the next decade planned, for the brand. So give us some of your, milestones that you hope to achieve, because what we're going to do is we're going to check back with you in a couple of years. Cool. and see where you're at to achieve those.
I mean, the Northern Star we have, or the big vision, is we want to be among top 5 or the top players on this 1 to 3,000 watch category. So it means in 10 years we'll still be in that price segment. We'll still offer you very high quality. We'll be offering you craftsmanship. We'll be offering you design, iconic designs, and basically quality in after sales and quality in production. Right. This is where we're heading. But what I also learned is not to plan too far ahead, because you get the challenges. So it's much more important you're agile.
I like that. Just knowing how to pivot.
Well, thank you so much for spending, just about an hour with us, sharing your passion for the brand, the future, walking us through some of the concepts and some of your leadership strategies. I can't say I'm humbled enough just that you spent some time with us, and and I'm a fan. You know, I can't
Great.
wait. I can't wait to watch you take over, and I'll be sitting there as rooting with my little Maurice Lacroix flag. But thank you. You know, I just really want to thank you for spending time with us and giving your perspective. You know,
thanks for the chat, guys. Very interesting, and you know, if you really want to help us, speak about us, because this is really where we can use and help. So awareness is our number one challenge. Once we got sorted the awareness part, we can pick up on the product quality.
Be rolling.
This is the phase 1 for us, the podcast, and then we start rolling out YouTube videos and articles and all that. So
we know how to.
I'll be there anytime.
Everybody, we are going to link Maurice Lacroix's website down there in the description of the podcast, the YouTube video. Check them out. Find your local dealer, get to them, get hands-on with these watches. You do not want to miss out on this great brand. Thank you so much, Stefan, for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And we will see you on the next episode at some point.
Thanks,
Bye, guys.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.